Hello, my friends. So, I had a request for, I think a couple requests actually, for the color scheme behind this, because it was a big favorite with everybody. And as you know, or you may know or may not know, when you're coloring, if you use complementary colors and blend into each other, it'll end up being brown or a very muddy color or whatnot, which is why everybody, I think, liked this so much and wanted to know about it, was because yellow and purple are opposites. They're complementary, as well as putting orange and purple together generally is not easy to do. So when you're coloring, you want to think about kind of the color wheel and what's across from it. So in a color wheel, let's do a simple diagram over here with a scrap. You've got your primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. You can, tell me those are not, but whatever. And green is a secondary color. And yellow and red equals orange, which is also a secondary color. And then you have purple, which is also a secondary color. So these are the primaries. You can make any colors with those. And then these are your secondaries. So when you've got orange across from blue and yellow across from purple, anything that's kind of over here, if you blend it with something that's over here, is going to make brown. This is brown. This is always going to be brown. Anything you do across from here, red and green, definitely getting brown. So you've got what I want to call going around here. If you want to mix something over here with something over here, like this is purple, right? We've got oranges and yellows that we want in there. So I went this way on the color wheel and chose a couple of colors in here that I could use as kind of buffer colors, is what I call them. And you don't see them a whole bunch, but I used, well, it's not exactly red, it's fuchsia, but it's in the red family. It's more of a pink, definitely, but pink is just adding white to red, basically. So that's what I did in the middle. Like, I would put it in between the orange and the purple, and I would just blend it back and forth into these. So these are not exactly the same colors I used, but I grabbed mostly the same. This is mauve, which is just a really, really nice dark purple. And of course I'm using polychromos because why not? In this one, by the way, I used Pablos. I only have a 12 set of Pablos, which is why I had just very, very simple ones. It was like violet. I think they called their pink fuchsia or something. And then it was just orange and yellow, and then I used a white on there. And since this is on white paper, I don't have to do that. So I would do a bit of purple, and I would bring in my pinky color. And of course, pink and purple blend together beautifully. And you can go back and forth, blend it really, really great. But I want this to come out farther, I think. Remember, when you are blending with pencils, you want to do layers and layers and layers and layers. So you go back and forth, or I go back and forth with my pencils. And then I would put orange into that pink. That way I had this buffer color. so that it didn't look like it was becoming muddy with the purple and the orange. And then you can go back and forth, and you can bring the purple in closer. But yeah, the whole point is to get a really vibrant blend without it getting super muddy, which is why I use buffer colors and don't just go straight from blending orange or yellow into purple. Because, I mean, we can do that if you can see it. Let's bring you down here. But it seems to, what it seems to do when you look at it is become, basically it brings down the vibrancy of the color, brings down the aliveness of it, I guess. And it's just, it's not a pretty blend to look at as far as colors. Like, it just, it basically makes a really gross color. When you're painting and you actually get the pigments into each other and everything, as far as paint goes, you will end up with brown. Like, it'll be a really gross, disgusting, like, icky brown that you will end up with when you're painting. And it's kind of the same thing here, which is why the pink up here is needed, because you can bring the pink into orange and you can also bring the pink into purple, and you're not going to have a problem with the pigments just basically hating each other. From there, I went on to bring in yellow on this side of it. So, I mean, basically you're just kind of making a rainbow, and you got to think about the colors that can touch each other. And those are the colors that will work together. And I mean, you wouldn't even need orange technically, but I wanted a lot of orange in this because you can, I mean, mix yellow and pink and you're gonna end up with orange anyway, but I found that using an orange helped. But I really wanted a bunch of orange in here, which is why I'd used orange. So, cause you can definitely mix pink and yellow. But that's how I did that as far as colors go. Now, on this, I used white in here for the lighter spots. I would use something like a cream on white to help with mixing and whatnot, getting those lighter values in there on a white piece of paper. But basically what I did was just, say, oh, I want, a yellow spot, or I want a light spot. And then from there, I would just build out. So that would be my light spot. And then I'd just be like, okay, well, I want to build around that and make that nice and saturated. And then you just bring out your colors from there. Let's see. Okay, well, now I'm going to slowly go around that spot with my orange. First light layer. And just blend it together. And once you have a couple layers, if you wanted to use a blending something or other, like odorless mineral spirits or whatnot, you can. However, you've got to start in the yellow, and then you would need, and you could blend that into the orange, and then maybe a little bit into the pink. But then you would need to switch it because you've still got yellow and orange on that blending stump. You need to clean it off before you could start going into like the pinks and purples. And you would not want to blend this way. You'd need to blend with the colors. If you blended this way, again, you're going to move the pigments into one another, and you're going to get some gross coloring in there. So if you do that, just be careful with it. You could use a blending pencil, which would actually work better with this kind of a blend, I think, because it's not going to move the pigment as much as a blending solution will. So you definitely could do that if you wanted to. The only blending pencil I think I have is the Lyra one, which it's okay. I'm not a huge fan of blending pencils, so that's just me in general. I don't really care for them. They do have their place, and if you like them, you know, then that's great. Use them. Just everybody has personal preferences, and I'm not a huge fan of blending pencils. I prefer to just go back and forth and get the pencils as smooth as I can on their own, and that's just my thing. So it's just the look that I prefer, so it's not that big of a deal. And you just go back and forth and back and forth, and you will eventually get a really nice smooth gradient blend into each single one. Now when I sit and I do these lovely gems like this, I sit and I just go back and forth and take my time, and sometimes, just depending on how many times I get distracted, it can take a couple of hours. Other times it takes, 20-30 minutes for me to just sit and get done with it. Kind of just depends. But, you know me, this is what I love to do, so. I want to bring some of this yellow out this way a little bit. Just sit and go back and forth and back and forth. And this is what I do, guys. Even on the big, like, faceted out, like, those lovely, like, whole gems that I do, the photorealistic ones, this is exactly what I do. Is I sit here with my pencils and I follow the picture. Basically, it's just like, you know, I look at my picture and it's like, okay, well, you know, this is green right here, and then it goes to like a more yellowy green, so I bring out a yellowy green, or I bring out a yellow, and I just blend back and forth, back and forth. It's the same thing, guys. The only difference is that I'm following a picture versus making it up in my mind. And that's really all it is. It's not nearly as difficult as some people think it is. It is time consuming, and you do need to know what you are doing, but it's not difficult in the sense that it just takes a lot of time. And you've got to know your medium, and you've got to be able to follow the picture. But it's really not that hard, quote unquote, unless you have like a really bad reference photo. If your reference photo is like, you know, super blurry, or you can't blow it up big enough to see the details that you need to see, then it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult to interpret as far as what color needs to go where and the sharpness of that and shape or whatever. So, yep, there's definitely places to fudge it in, which is what I do a lot of the time. But yeah, when I do those big photorealistic ones, I literally take the photo that the client gives me, and then it's just basically a kind of almost like a color by number type thing, where it's like I make the page that, and I draw out all the facets to it just as I see them, and then I just sit there and I color all of it in. So, but this is what I do, is you just sit here and you end up just going in little tiny circles and making sure to blend it really, really great. So, there you guys have it as far as the blending on this is concerned. With this, I really did use a jelly roll, and I did a white pencil first. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I did use a white pencil first and kind of went over it a couple of times. And then I kind of used the jelly roll, and I did it really, really like scratchily on purpose because I wanted to give it that kind of look as far as kind of hitting and missing on the facets. So basically all I did on top of that was just did, you know, white pencil in a checkerboard fashion. You know, go across this way, and then across this way. And then I would just go in and find my lines. See if I have one right here somewhere. I was writing with it last night. And I just you know, did this thing. We're just kind of like scratching at it. Oop, that's not on the line. To give it that effect of having been faceted in that checkerboard diamond pattern. And then I sat there, and as you can see, this is not filled in really well. You can see it. I was thinking that the Pablos are wax-based. Polychromos are more of an oil base, so the jelly pen didn't work as well for filling in perfectly on this, and I think it would work better on Polychromos, but either way, it was just a matter of sitting here and filling in. It'll work about the same, I guess, but yeah. The rest of it, some of this in here was actually done with the Derwent Lightfast pencil. It went over my Pablos really, really well. I've just been so impressed with that white pencil. Yeah, the Derwent Lightfast. I got it in the white pencil pack that you guys saw a while back that I did. And it is quite opaque as far as going over other colors. And it will layer on top of itself quite a few times. So it really helped me get that sort of feel here in different areas. For just the light hitting it, but not super reflective. It was just kind of giving it that glare of light. So that's how I did all that. As far as like veins, you guys know how to do that. And I took I believe this was a light brown pencil in there, or a dark brown pencil. And I just did a little bit of shading in and around on those. Did some little veins. And then I took the dark brown. I think it was the dark brown. It might have gone black. I might have done black to purple. I really can't tell now. But probably some black or some dark brown. Dark brown. Around there. Around the edges, of course, just to sink it down. Make it look visually like it's going around like we do with our cabochons. And that was it. It's not difficult. It's just time consuming. And you have to have, you know, visually what you want in your mind going on. You know, what's the base? The base is, you know, doing the colors. And then after that, you're going to do like your little veins and your shading. On top of that, you're going to do your white lines. And then on top of that, you're going to do your highlights. You know, you just build upon it until you get to where you want it to be. And then after that, it was just like, you know, what do I want around it? Well, I like little pearls, so I did little pearls. You guys know how to do little pearls. There's lots of tutorials. Those are super easy. So, I hope you enjoyed this and talking about color and what works. If you have any questions, of course, please just ask. And I hope to see what you guys do with this. So, thanks, and see you next time.